Did you know that the number one reason new products fail isn't because people don't buy them once? It's because they don't buy them twice. They just forget to use the product, so they never buy it again. That's why I think today's email is totally brilliant. So it's from the pet supplement brand YuMOVE, and it's a masterclass in how to help customers build habits with digital marketing. I'm Jennifer Clinehens, founder and managing director of customer engagement agency Choice Hacking, where we use behavioral science, predictive AI, and psychology-driven marketing to help brands of all sizes grow their business. Today, I'm going to break down the psychology behind this amazing email from a tiny pet supplement brand called YuMOVE. What's working, what's not, and the psychology behind why. This is not a brand you've probably heard of, but I've really been blown away by the emails I've gotten from them, specifically this one. And I have to feel like YuMOVE either has somebody on staff who knows about behavioral science or has brought in a behavioral scientist or someone educated in behavioral science to help consult on this particular email. If not, they're just very smart, and bravo. This is every single point that I'm going to cover. The video is not going to be super long, but if you want to take a screenshot just so you have this someplace, go ahead and do that. I got this relatively early in the journey, so I got these arthritis pills for my dog. I think I got this email within the first 2 or 3 weeks. Clearly, they know how important it is to build habits. So I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of what is in the email. And then we're going to back up a little bit, talk about something called the habit loop, and then we'll take these one by one to break down how they're leaning into the science of habit to get giving your dog the supplement, something that you don't really think consciously about. I won't go through all of this copy, but just to give you an idea of what's in the email, they give you some don't forget tips and tricks for actually starting the supplementation, and then they give you this top tips for staying on track, which is where we're going to focus the majority of the video. And down here, we've got a nice social proof section. So a picture of some people with their dogs, the Trustpilot rating, and some nice quotations. I'm not going to go too deeply into this part of the email because I don't think it's necessarily perfect. I think they could have focused a little bit more clearly just on the habit building section, and they maybe don't need the rest of this. Let's talk quickly about the habit loop, what it is, and why I brought it up. This is the habit loop. And basically, the habit loop is this model that describes the structure of a habit. It was created by some MIT researchers in the 1990s. I will link the Choice Hacking article on my blog that goes more deeply into the habit loop and what it is and where it came from and how we can use it. All you really need to know for this video is there's 3 sections. The first bit here is a trigger. This is also called a cue. And this is the signal that acts as a call to action. So that's the thing that kind of kicks off the habit. So, for example, for me, like drinking coffee in the morning is a habit. And the trigger for me is literally just waking up. It's the first thing that I do, for better or for worse. Probably not great for my health. But regardless, I wake up in the morning and I know the first thing I'm going to do is roll out of bed and go get a cup of coffee because that's a habit. So the second section is the routine. That's the habit itself. That would be, going down to the kitchen and like heating up the milk, getting the espresso in the machine in the maker and making this latte. And the last bit would be the reward. So this is the feedback that we get from performing the habit. For me, the reward for drinking coffee in the morning, it's a little shot of caffeine, a little shot of sugar. It's something to kind of kickstart my day. So an example of the rough structure of a habit loop with some examples for you. So now let's go back and visit some of these points in the YuMOVE email. So this middle section, which is the habit section, has these 3 suggestions for how to make giving your dog this supplement habit. So the first says, combine YuMOVE, so that's the pill, with a daily task like feeding time. The second one says, set a reminder on your phone. And the third one says, use a pill box or keep in an easy to spot place. This first suggestion here, so combining YuMOVE with a daily task like feeding time, this is a suggestion that uses a triggering strategy called preceding action or time. This is when you're already doing something. So in this case, it could be feeding your dog breakfast. In the coffee example, it could be just waking up in the morning. Whatever that preceding action is, if you can tie that trigger or cue to that preceding action, it makes it easier to pick up the habit and make sure that you do it because it's tied to something that you're already doing. So I've said it here, preceding action, habits are more likely to stick if they're connected to an existing chain of action. All right, so on to the second suggestion that YuMOVE has for us to make it giving our dogs a pill a habit. This is the one that says use a pill box or keep in an easy to spot place. Now, this is a suggestion that uses the strategy of location and context as a habit trigger. And basically what that means is your environment and your surroundings can be a trigger for behavior. So for me and my coffee habit, let's say getting up in the morning and having that first cup of coffee is not the trigger. Let's say it's going down into the kitchen and seeing the coffee maker. It's in an obvious place. I won't miss it. I'm already down in the kitchen. That would be an example of location and context. So this is why you have things like a Peloton bike, beautifully designed, and a lot of people put the Peloton in their living room. Now that's a good example of a location and context trigger because you'll see it sitting in your living room much more easily than you would in a separate room, in a basement, potentially in a garage someplace. And that would be an example of using location and context to trigger getting on a Peloton bike. The very last suggestion we have here to create this habit around dog supplementation is the middle one, actually, that says set a reminder on your phone. This suggestion uses the strategy of what's called a prompt to get you kicked off into that habit loop. Prompts are physical reminders to perform an action. So an example, the one they have here, is a reminder or an alert on your phone. It could be a push notification, a note you leave for yourself on the fridge. Any prompts are a really good one. You'll often see this if you're designing a mobile app, if you're using email. So email itself could be a prompt. If, for example, you sent your customer something that said, hey, it's Tuesday, have you given your dog their Tuesday supplement? That could be a prompt. So you can see from marketers, especially and experienced designers, that prompts can be a really useful tool to get people re-engaged or get them thinking about your app or your experience when they may not have been before. Great, so that's it. That is the email psychology breakdown of this YuMOVE habit building email. Now, people have been responding really well to these emails. That means I'm going to keep making them. So if you have any suggestions for emails or web pages or mobile apps or even like retail experiences that you want me to break down in this way and kind of pull through some things that I think are working, some things that aren't, and the psychology and behavioral science behind why, just leave a comment below. Now, if you want to learn more about this, I have a free newsletter. We have about 8,000 members from companies like Google, Coke, and Disney, and also small businesses, startups, and kind of everything in between. If you want to join, it is just choicehacking.com/read, and there is a link in the description below. If you work in marketing or you're a hands-on founder and you want me to break down something like this for you, there's also a link in there. You can get a customer experience audit or just reach out on email. If behavioral science and psychology-driven marketing is something that you're interested in, I do have some courses at choicehacking.academy where you can learn everything from the very basics of applying behavioral science and psychology to marketing. So check out choicehacking.academy or find the links in the description below. I'll see you next time.